So it's September 17th today. I was incarcerated for the last 7 months. I was involved on February 10th in an incident where I yelled at a man who was following me. And I've been in jail and then involuntarily committed to a psychiatric institution. I've never really believed in trying to hide other people's shame, and so I want to be totally clear about that. I'm not at a position yet to speak about the details of any alleged crime. I'll be able to speak about that in maybe 6 weeks. But I just wanted to talk about what I've been doing the last 7 months and what happened. So as I said, on February 10th, I was driving and there was a truck following me, and I pulled over to the side of the road and for him to pass because he was very close and it was dark. It was early morning, and instead of passing, he pulled over on the shoulder behind me, and I got out of my car and I wanted to see who it was, and I was yelling, and that's not the incident, the legal incident. But a witness to that is involved, and so I'm not going to speak about the other witness. So anyway, I was arrested for a very serious violent charge because I had yelled at this man, and I was assigned a public defender named Lori Shearer. And when I met with Lori Shearer, I explained to her what had happened, and I also explained to her my background, the fact that I have provided testimony about my ex-husband to federal investigators about him for his financial crimes and about his involvement in corruption in family courts in Chicago. And that's a true fact. That was submitted to a criminal investigator from the IRS named Tessa Wigland in October of 2021, and she issued me whistleblower numbers in January 2022. But of course, that's a fact. But it's also a fact that 90% of people who mention interactions with federal investigators are probably having psychotic delusions. So Ms. Shearer, she didn't take the time to view any of the evidence, videos from the date of the incident, videos of witness statements from other witnesses. And because the police report did not mention the man on the shoulder who had followed me, and he was mentioned by the witnesses in the videos she didn't watch, so she said that I was having a delusion and imagining that I saw that man. And I didn't imagine that. The police had confiscated my phone, which had a video of the man, and as I said, other witnesses. I knew the witnesses saw him, so I knew their witness statements would describe him. My suspicion at the time was that he was a U.S. Marshal. That sounds crazy. Lord knows. I know it sounds crazy. To the state of Michigan, it definitely sounds crazy. But that was what I believed because I've had a lot of interaction every day with federal law enforcement for the last 3 years since I provided testimony about racketeering in Cook County. So I told Ms. Shearer about that. I also I got emotional because I thought she was going to help me. Emotional, by emotional I mean I told her my statement and I cried a little bit, but I was speaking as I'm speaking to you now, coherent. And she had also received an email from a family member of mine whose love language is trolling, trying to indicate to Ms. Shearer that I psychotic, and So again, Ms. Shearer read the family member's email, but she didn't review the evidence. So on February 24th, I met with her, and she said, I'm going to suggest that you say to the court that you are incompetent to stand trial, and then you'll be assessed for your competency because you're crazy. And after that, I'm going to suggest that you plead not guilty by reason of insanity. I said I was opposed to that because it was my stated belief at that time that I was not guilty by reason of actual innocence. And that's what I stated to her. I'm not speaking about any other statements since then. And I also said I would be lying to say that I was unaware of right and wrong or what I was doing. I have a very clear recollection of all aspects of the incident on that day. And I also said that I was competent. I'd been in jail for over a week, and I'd met people who believe the entire country is run by 7 families. I'd met people who have heard a lot of voices, usually on meth. I met a lot of crazy people in jail, and they got to go to trial, and that was what I wanted to do too. And Ms. Shearer said, well, it's not a choice. If you don't plead that you're insane and incompetent, I'm going to quit. And we were on a Zoom breakout room from court, and I said, I think that's coercive because I think you're forcing me to enter a plea by threatening to quit. And she said, oh no, if I quit, I'll just, let the judge know that you have a new attorney. And I said, well, I think that's prejudicial because then the judge will think that I can't work with counsel. Ironically, I would later learn that one of the factors for determining if a litigant is competent is whether they can work with attorneys. So she said, well, I'm going to go talk to my boss. So I waited in this Zoom breakout room, and then I thought she'd come back with her boss and she'd quit, and I'd get a new lawyer, and I'd be a little annoyed about having my probable cause hearing delayed a week. Because Michigan has the right to a speedy trial, so I should have had a probable cause hearing within a couple weeks, usually a week, of February 10th being arrested. So she came back, but instead of a Zoom breakout room, I was put into court, and Ms. Shearer stood up and said, Your Honor, my client pleads incompetent. And after that, I had to wait 100 days in jail before I was transferred to a hospital. And then I spent 90 days in a high security mental hospital. I was assaulted 3 times. Once when someone came into my room and beat my head while I was sleeping and gave me a concussion. And 2 sexual assaults by male patients. And they found that I do not have a mental illness. At 45 days into my stay, the forensic psychiatrist who assesses people, Dr. Emil, he met with me, and I just told him the truth because that's the only thing I do. So I again mentioned that the reason I had pulled over to the side of the road was to let a gentleman pass. He didn't pass. He pulled over behind me for no discernible reason. And after that, I was not declared competent, and my social worker, Tanya Hanselman, told me, Dr. Emil said that you show all signs of competency. You have to understand, most of the people who, I had to go to a training every day, and most of the people who were there because they were incompetent to stand trial, for an hour a day, they were trying to learn the difference between a sentence and a verdict, or whether the judge and the prosecutor are working for you. Most of them had profound intellectual disabilities or severe mental illness. I had, from the start, a pretty clear understanding of how the criminal justice system works. And so she said the only reason that I was denied competency at 45 days was because I persist in a delusion that a man was on the shoulder of the road. And because that's not in the police report, I must have been either lying or making it up, which is interesting because if police reports are 100% accurate, why would we have trials? Um, but mental hospitals aren't the place for philosophical arguments. Um, but eventually, they did release me, and because I was restored, I could fire Miss Shearer, and I got a new attorney who actually did her job. And she looked at the witness statements, and she said that there was a man on the shoulder of the road, that I was not crazy. And so I'm hoping the case, the plan is for the case to be resolved at the end of October. And I can't really, I'll speak about the details after that happens. Um, I hope I can post this. I lost my dog. I lost my phone. I don't know if my bank account's open. So it's not really a problem that can be easily fixed. I just need to know that I'm not alone, because I've been so isolated. So any messages of support are really appreciated.